Welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. The episode today is for you if you want to get better at managing your adult relationships as well, especially with your loved ones, with your partner or in your marriage. Because what I often hear about, and it's actually our theme of the month for all the Zen Supermoms inside the program right now, is a focus on finding the delicate balance between showing unconditional love and giving your partner, husband, wife, your loved one, showing them how much you care for them, being there for them, while also taking care of your needs and having your needs met, having boundaries that feel right to you. How can these two coexist? Because often it is a struggle between that I find for a lot of especially people-pleasing women, all of us who were raised to be good girls. We were taught it's not okay to say no. We were taught to take care of others before we take care of ourselves. And after years of people-pleasing in a relationship, and especially after months or even years that since you became a mom, it might start feeling like, what the heck, it's way too much, I'm exhausted, I'm burning out, and it's just like I need to start saying no. And so then suddenly you swing the pendulum all the way to the other extreme and you just say no. And it often leads to a shutdown of the relationship with your loved one, which then reflects back and it makes it so much more difficult in every other area of your life, right? Because of your partnership, your marriage, your relationship, instead of giving you energy and lifting you up and you feeling like a team who's working together, you're suddenly fighting and there are blocks and there's a divide that's widening. And so it's draining your energy and you have even less of patience and love for your kids because you're so occupied in your mind. There's so much tension between you and your other half. So, how to get out of all of that? Where's the balance between unconditional love and still self-love and self-boundaries? How to make those two come together so that not only you have a healthy relationship that feels like really that partnership and teamwork, but also you give your children a healthy role model about how to talk about stuff, how to communicate, how to find the way and common ground that works for everyone, where not just one is receiving and the other one keeps giving and it's unbalanced so much so that then it explodes in your face and parents got divorced. Okay? So, if that's been your struggle lately, you are invited to join me in this podcast episode. I'm doing it for you. Let's go. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. Hi, I'm Alena and I'm the mommy tantrum specialist. Well, it works for dads too, so I could say daddy tantrum specialist too. And I'm the founder of the Zen Supermom system, where we help busy, loving, but yelling or emotionally numb, frozen and disconnected moms and dads to stop yelling at their kids and start setting those healthy boundaries with calm and give the kids what they need, which is unconditional love, which is what you wish you grew up with, right? Now, what I'm not a relationship therapist, I'm not a couple therapist, I'm not a sex coach, I'm not even a parenting coach, because big news, all of these tantrums and divides, it's not even about your kids, your relationship problems, it's not even about your partner, husband, wife. By the way, I will be talking about moms and their husbands or partners, but that is not to be confused with any discrimination or anything. It's just from my experience and working with most of my clients are moms who have husbands or partners. Please do not get triggered if you have a same-sex relationship. Yes, or if you're not in a relationship right now, Everybody is invited to this podcast as long as we are talking about somebody you love, your loved one, or you want to get prepared for the next relationship with a loved one who might be coming in the future. You want to be ready and you want it to be healthier than maybe some previous failed attempts, okay? So everybody who has love in their heart is invited. No judgment, no discrimination. I don't care who you love, as long as there is love in your heart that you feel like, yeah, I would love to feel connected to other people, not just be like brother and sister or two roommates in a dorm who somehow happen to be raising kids and family. But if you want to feel like, not just bring the sparkle back and have the chemistry going on, like we are not teenagers, we know that chemical rush in the first few weeks. Go to these sex experts to know how to get that back, if that's even possible. This episode is really for those of you who understand relationships change and evolve and mature. And yes, it becomes more and more increasingly difficult, especially after you have kids, but it is not impossible. First thing to realize is you can never go back. So if there's part of you still wishing and hoping and daydreaming, like I wish he would look and feel the way he did when we met, like, sorry to break it to you, but that's not what's going to happen. And that's the good news. Yeah. What if, play a game with me. What if it was possible to create a future of your relationship? If we are really talking about a loved one, not somebody you want to break up with and divorce, okay? That's not what we will talk about. If it's somebody who deep down, underneath all those fights and all those things you don't disagree with, all those things you're mad about, resentful about, and feel hurt about, underneath there's still enough of love and connection you still feel and you want to bring back, then what if the future of your relationship could be even better in some way? It will be different than it was at the beginning. But what if in some way you could rebuild it and re-strengthen it so that it would feel even better than before? So that it would no longer be that like blind, crazy hormonal rush, which is awesome. But what if that would evolve into solid, understanding, unconditionally loving partnership, relationship in which you can feel fully heard and seen and accepted for who you are, no matter what? What if that was possible? Because that's what I'm here for. That's what I can help you start doing. Okay? Yes? Is that what you want? Then let's go, because here's where it's going to get fun. And those of you who are watching this podcast for a while, who have seen several of my episodes, or even who are our clients already, you will know what's coming next. Because I'm going to ask you, what is it that you want from your partner? So what is it that you're missing right now in your relationship? Make a list. What is it that you're missing? Permission granted to, I cannot say the B word, but okay, complain. And not in a way like what he or she didn't do, but what is it that you are really missing? What are your needs that are not being met right now? Make a list. Feel free to pause, come back after you've done it. Do the homework if you want to get the result. Because after you've done it, have you done it? My next question is, who would you love your partner to be? Like, how do you want them to show up for you? With what kind of energy? Write it down or think about it now in your mind and then take notes later. What kind of energy would you like to feel from your partner or husband that you're not feeling right now and you're missing it and it bothers you that it's not there? Yes? And now here comes the ninja move. And you might already know what it is if you're listening for a while. If that's what you want from your partner, then who do you need to be for him? Who do you need to be in order, I don't want to say to be worthy of that relationship and that kind of energy from him, but it is kind of like realizing it cannot be unbalanced. It has been unbalanced for way too long. That's why you probably cut it off, right? If you resonated with the scenario that I shared, that you've been the people pleaser, giver, and then nothing was coming back. And so you're like, F it, I'm out of here. You emotionally checked off, you stopped giving. And so now there's like a there's not only boundary, there's like a borderline between two countries who are in a war. You stop giving. That doesn't work either. How do you need to show up in your relationship so that it works both ways? What are you here to give? And practical example, if you want to get unconditional love, acceptance from your partner, if you want to feel heard and seen and that you matter, then wouldn't it be fair to expect that you give that too? Because a relationship is a dance, right? It takes two to tango. Yeah. And what if it was possible to stop waiting for the other person to change and start working on your end? Because we just had, it was yesterday night. Yeah, my days are blurred. Yesterday night, we had a group call and one of the Zanzibar clients came in at the end, all the way at the end, saying, I don't have any struggle. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm fine. And this is just what I wanted to share, because actually once I realized what was stopping me from being invested fully in my relationship, and that it was actually me repeating the patterns of my mom, of how she behaved in her relationships, I started seeing that I'm actually doing exactly the same, sabotaging it in exactly the same way. Suddenly my partner started doing his self-work. He never wanted to do anything. He never wanted to do for therapy. He was like, I don't have any problem. It's all on you. He never wanted to read even a self-book. And suddenly she found a self-help book on a table and he started doing some work. Because there was less judgment coming from her. There was less finger pointing and her being less of a victim in there. She started owning her part of the story. And so he felt free. And he felt more compelled and less pressured. And he started doing his work. So this is just an introduction. We are not even doing anything yet. This is just to help you see that you have more power than you even know about. I have seen a lot of women turn around relationships single-handedly, even without their partners, even without the other side doing anything, any self-work, any trauma healing, childhood healing, none of that. Oh, God forbid. These women turned it around all by themselves because they made it their priority. And it started, the first step was owning their side of it. I can't change your partner. I can't make them want to change. You can't do that. But how powerful would it be if you realize that actually you can influence a lot of your relationship, even if they don't change? And it starts here, realizing what has been the impact of you shutting it down, most likely, and of you continuing the fight. Okay. And if you're listening to this podcast episode, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you're ready to do something about it. You're ready to to change it. You're ready to do the work. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, you know. But my questions were really helping you already, like, guide you to the point where you realize that what you want from the outside, that's actually what it's going to take from you, for you to start being that way too. That's the first step. Okay. Now that we laid the ground, now that the foundations are there, that we have this common understanding, let's get to the balance, finding the balance between the people pleasing, like giving unconditional love to others, and then while you're still holding your boundaries and you're getting your needs met. How do we balance that? The first thing you need to do is to realize that what you've been doing so far was not giving unconditional love. What? Are you kidding me? Anybody who got upset here, it would be totally normal. I know. You're doing so much for them. You sacrificed your life, your body, your time, your literally your entire life for this family. Yes. Pat on the back. No, I'm not diminishing your sacrifices. You did that. And it's amazing. They are lucky to have you. And also, it was not unconditional. What were your conditions? Every time you do something for them, do you get resentful? Do you get upset when you don't hear thank you? When you don't get appreciation for it? Do you feel not respected, not recognized, that you're doing way too much and getting too little for it back? Those would be the clues. Whenever you feel you're giving, and there's not enough coming back, that would tell me this was not unconditional love who made you give so much. It was your people pleaser childhood trauma. What? Yes. Go back to your childhood. Were you rewarded for putting others first, or were you pushed not to think about yourself because that's selfish and egocentric and not right? You have to think of others first. You're not allowed to say what you need. They need to go first. You need to take care of others before you take care of yourself. Were you raised this way? And were you raised that the more you did for others, that the more appreciation you got, that it was like a virtue? It was a good quality, personal character, like character quality to have? Was your mom people pleaser maybe? And she was put as that martyr, self-sacrificing martyr, putting herself on a pedestal, that this is the ultimate goodness in the world? Yeah. And also, while being empathetic and nurturing and caring are strengths, no kidding, those are strengths. This world is standing on caring and nurturing and empathizing. However, what happens when your trauma abuses it, when you're made feel not good enough, unless you do that and use and overuse those strengths so that you're not feeling free to use them when it feels right, but you must use them because if you don't, you're not good enough, you're a bad person, you're selfish, and go to your room and don't come back unless you feel like you need to, you can be giving until you die. That's a trauma. Your trauma, people pleaser childhood trauma, is abusing your strength. And whenever that happens in your relationship with your family, what cost are you paying for it? What cost did your mom pay for that? For being a boundless, boundaryless people pleaser, self-sacrificing martyr, resentful, bitter, complaining, not feeling respected enough, not feeling seen and heard, being exhausted and burned out of giving herself out. What was the cost of that for your mom? And what price are you paying for it? You see, this is the first realization that we need to get straight here in between us, okay? There's a difference between nurturing and taking care of people and between unconditional love, because unconditional love gives without wanting anything back. Would you still go to the shop, would you still research all the organic food, homemade, from scratch recipes, and go to the shop, buy every ingredient and spend the whole afternoon cooking, if nobody said thank you at the end of the dinner after you've put so much effort in it? Would you still be okay with that? Would you do it again? If your answer is yes, then well done, keep going. If the answer is bloody no, then here you have your answer. It was your pleaser who was doing it. Would you still be breastfeeding rather than giving a bottle? Would you still do cloth diapers rather than giving whatever brand of plastic stuff on the butt? Would you still do all of this cleaning, cooking, DIY projects with your kids, going to 1,000 different extracurricular activities and researching and doing games and preparing games for them and all of the neighbors' kids? Would you still do that if nobody saw it and actually knew that you did it? If nobody said thank you? Would you still do it? If the answer is no, then this is your flag. You're doing it to feed your not good enough people pleaser childhood trauma. So this is the difference. This is what you need to start really discerning and being present to. Am I going to do this now? Am I going to keep giving because I really love them? And I love this activity. If you love cooking and if that's like really your passion because it makes you relax, it makes you feel great, like keep doing it. But if you do it to hear the thank you, if you do it because you want something back, then it's not unconditional by default. Do you hear the logic? Unconditional means you give without expecting anything back. If you're giving because you want to get at least some breadcrumbs of love and appreciation back, at least a little bit of confirmation that you're good enough, then it's not unconditional. It's a trade. Quid pro quo. I give you, I take care of you. If you give me back, if you make me feel good about myself as a mom. You see it? That's not what unconditional love is about. So, first step would be looking at it. Which of these actions I'm doing because I want to get something back? It's not actually that selfless. I'm not doing that because I'm a Mother Teresa. I'm doing that to feed the black hole inside of me that makes me feel not good enough. That's my way of making that at least like make myself feel better. I'm not so bad after all. I'm not such a bad mom after all because I'm doing this. So the judge in my head, let me be at least for a moment. I'm not such a terrible mom because I'm doing so much. I'm giving so much. So watch how those playing out. That's not unconditional love. That's your childhood trauma making you a people pleaser. Yes? Do we get that? It's very important that we get that. If you didn't, go back and listen again. Do the exercises again. This is the difference between people-pleasing and over-giving and then becoming self-sacrificing martyr that nobody even asked for. Nobody even asked for that. You just kept giving because you wanted to get back. That's the difference between people-pleaser, over-giving trauma, and unconditional love. So that's the thing on the one side. That's one reason why you keep over-giving. And that's why after it became way too much, because your kids are always asking something from you. Either if you're at work, if you went back to work, or you're taking care of the house, and like being a mom is a full-time job. And so it takes so much of your energy. And then at the end of the day, even your husband or partner then comes and he just keeps asking. And it feels like he's another child whose needs you need to meet. That is like, no, explosion. No, I can't do this anymore. Nobody. And like, that's when I turned into a momzilla. That's when I started yelling. It was just too much. I felt like I'm giving to everybody everything and nothing is coming back, not enough. So I was like, no. And because I didn't know how to have healthy boundaries and set it up front, I reacted this way. I exploded when it was already too late. It went already too far. And so yelling and being angry and resentful was the last option for me. I ran out of options, other options by then. I didn't know there were any other options. Then anger and yelling and being stressed out were the only ways how to take care of myself and how to stop it so that I have some time to recover at least and take a breath until I need to go and do it all again. Yes, that's why actually you have so much power, exactly as I said at the beginning, because this is not even on your partner. Your partner is not responsible for your people pleaser childhood trauma. Yes, they might be taking advantage of it. It might be one of the reasons why you're together, because they loved being like receiving so much. Who could blame them? But that's why it's creating so many problems, because they're used to getting, they're used to receiving, maybe they're used to their life being easier. And now that you flip the switch and you're like, no, they're like, who are you? I don't even recognize you. What happened to you? Well, this is what happened. You're finally saying no to your childhood trauma to be manifesting this way. And you understand that it's not sustainable in the long run, that you keep running on your childhood trauma of people pleaser, because it's not sustainable. You can never give enough to others for yourself to feel good enough. Did you hear me? I'm going to say that again. In other words, that black hole inside of you of not feeling good enough, it is really a black hole. You can never satisfy it. You can never get enough of appreciation, thank yous, recognition from the outside so that you would stop feeling not good enough. In the long term, it will always come back. It will always haunt you. And if not in this relationship, you will start doing exactly the same thing in another relationship. It's not the fault of your kids. They are just magnifying it because you have effectively more people to give love to. But as long as you see love and affection as finite, kind of like that your resources are finite, are limited, and you don't have enough of them to give to everybody and still have enough for yourself, then you're screwed. Logically, right? This is where the shift needs to happen. Unconditional love. Giving because there is so much you have to give that you choose to give it without expecting anything back. You give because that's who you are. And when it feels not good to give, you don't. You put yourself first. And the boundaries with kids will be different than boundaries with adult relationships, because your kids having not much sense of time. For them, everything is urgent, everything is now. So, specific example, your kids might want to be doing everything they can to prolong the bedtime routine. And it's super annoying because at the end of the day, you're super tired, exhausted. All you wish you could do is just go to sleep or be with yourself, do stuff that you want to do. Not even talking about the stuff that your trauma, again, people pleaser, puts it on your list. Like, no, I should be cleaning the kitchen, doing this, blah, 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 blah. That's your trauma. That's what you feel you should be doing. That's actually what not should be on your list. That's your trauma. But what you want to be doing, at the end of the day, you might be feeling like, it's time to take care of me. And how about me? When is my time? When is it my turn? It's still you little people. I was like, I've had enough. Your kids will not have appreciation for that. They will still feel the urgent need to feel loved by you and feel seen and heard. Yes. So with them, the boundaries are different. It's different to set the boundary because they will keep asking for more. Okay. But if we talk here about adult relationships and setting boundaries there, then it becomes even more interesting, because adults have different perception of time and they can wait, and there is more equal conversation, or should be more equal conversation. So one of the first things to do is to realize your husband is not your next kid. Stop treating them that way. And then let me ask you the question. What would it take for you to start feeling like partners, like a team again? Because that's what needs to happen. Yes. And usually how you can set up some foundations for opening that discussion is when you seek to understand first, rather than trying to be understood. Because unless you want your husband, your partner, to go on defense and feel like he needs to protect himself from you blaming and shaming and complaining, then they will not hear you. Their ears will be still closed. So how can you open someone's ears to be in more receptive space where you could actually start feeling comfortable talking about your needs without them feeling like you're attacking them and without that spiraling into a fight? Is that first you go in with empathy and compassion and you seek to understand first. What is it that you need? What is it that you are missing? Without blaming or attacking each other. And how can we go back to the love and connection we had at the beginning? Knowing that, yes, it's okay, all the hormones and stuff, and it was new and it was like exciting because all the, at the beginning. But how could we keep growing our connection in a way that we both feel heard, seen, and loved the way we want? Because your love language might be different than your partner's love language. So how is it that you want to be showed? How is it that you want me to show to you how much I love you and how much I appreciate you? What is it that you're missing? And how can I show it to you? How can I give it to you in your way that feels best for you? Then there might be much more open to asking you back the same question. Or if they don't ask, then you can talk about it. Once they feel heard, their ears will be much more open to being ready to hear you. And again, you sharing without blaming, without fighting, without complaining, without any anger or resentment, and owning it. What is it that is on your list? What are your needs without your trauma? Yeah. I realized in my specific example, I used to be very resentful of my husband for not helping me enough at home. But in the moments when I was like the biggest victim of it, when I felt like just my life is too heavy and poor me and nobody to help and it's all on me and I'm carrying like the load of the home and being the key breadwinner and being the key nurturer and caretaker for our daughter and just doing everything so much by myself, I realized it was actually my decision. It was my choice at the beginning. That's how I wanted it. If I didn't want to be the breadwinner, if money was the most important to me, I could have done what the classical stereotype about Eastern European women is. I could have found some rich guy so that I would never have to work again. I could have done that if that was my priority. It wasn't. I could have been more firm and vocal and direct about expecting my husband to do a lot of the households, like the things at home. I could have. But I chose not to do that because he already spent so little time at home that I wanted him to be a present father. So it was actually my choice that I took it all on myself so that when he was at home, he could spend that time with our daughter so that she would have a beautiful relationship with him that she does have now. It was my people pleaser and my victim who wanted to get more recognition for that because it became the normal and everybody got used to it. And I was starting to feel not heard and seen and appreciated enough because I started doing it quid pro quo. It was my people pleaser who wanted to get the recognition and who wanted at least like bloody hell, at least say thank you. Yes, daddy is the funny one. Daddy is the adventure one. Because mommy made it possible, because mommy is the one who does everything else in the background so that daddy doesn't have to. That was the piece that I needed to sort out. All of the others were my choices. So what is it for you? How did you, most probably unconsciously, contributed to the current situation? Maybe even through having positive intentions, good intentions, not even like your trauma meddling with it. But how is it that you contributed to getting all the way here? And what would become possible once you would stop taking out all of your blah blah out of the way and connecting with what is really the most important? What is the basis of your love, of your partnership, of your connection? beyond the dishes, beyond how often the house needs to be vacuum cleaned and who's washing this or taking care of that. Because this was another part, apart from the people pleaser, I realized it was also my hyperachiever trauma getting in the way. Because growing up, I was rewarded as a kid for doing more, better, faster, even without people asking me, being always not 100%, but even 1000%, or at least like showing the effort and never being satisfied with anything less than 100%. I was rewarded for it. I was encouraged to do that. I was appreciated for being a hyperachiever. And that showed in my adult relationships, all of them actually, because I was putting such high expectations and such high bar on myself, my performance, how I show up, that I wake up earlier than anybody else in the morning just so that I can squeeze in as many activities as I can, and as late at night as possible, just so that I can feel like I'm so good, I did so much today. But then I was judging others if they were doing anything less than that. And that's where, again, I was taking my sense of self-worth. Like, it's okay, I'm not feeling good enough. You see how much you're doing, much more than other people, judging them? Like, they are not even doing as much as you can handle. Like, wow, you're good. Oof, I can feel good about myself today. Which starting to have cracks, right? In this theory. Yeah, because I couldn't. With a child, a baby at home who didn't fit in all the schedules, not always, who was taking up so much time, who was being so needy, especially when I didn't want it, because I had all of my to-do list fueled by my hyperachiever. It was extremely frustrating and extremely annoying, and I was super resentful for my daughter stealing my hyperachiever life and feeling good from me. I couldn't do it with her. The same was from the relationship. I put the same expectations that I had for myself, I stick like a label on the forehead of my husband. Like, I'm doing so much, you need to be doing at least as much as I'm doing. How come you're not getting up as early as I do? How come you're not working as long as I am doing? I was putting my standards and my judgment onto him. So why am I sharing so much of that, and why am I using my example? Is that before you go and start expressing your needs to your partner, have a really honest, open, close look into what are really your needs. Is that really your need? Is that, how would I call it? They all feel real. They all feel justified. And this is the thing, if you're only at the beginning of your journey, and if you're still hearing me talk about childhood trauma and you're like, what? I had a happy childhood, then you will have no idea what I'm talking about. But to start discerning, what I'm trying to get at is you starting to analyze, starting to feel into your needs. Which of them are there really just to feed my trauma, the black hole inside of me not feeling good enough? And which of these needs are really me, beyond the trauma? And what is usually there is to feel loved for who you are. That's real. That's not a trauma. Feel accepted the way you are without feeling the need to change. Feeling heard, feeling seen. Underneath anything, any trauma, any fights, any challenges, any misunderstandings and differences in personalities, underneath all of that, what we all have in common, I don't care if you're a man, woman, gay or straight, in a relationship or not, what your age and social status, cultural background and nationality is, what we all deeply long and want underneath is feeling loved no matter what, feeling worthy of being loved, being appreciated for who you are, really, feeling seen and heard. It's all part of it together, okay? That's the only thing you need at the end of the day, really. It's not the dishes. It's not who does what, who picks the kids from school or not. It's not who prepares the barbecue dinner for whose parents are coming over. This is what you need. If you just look close enough, if you let that sit with you, if you chew on it for a while, this is what you need. And this is what is totally doable. This is what you can ask for in a loving way, without blaming, without shaming, without complaining, making the other person feel seen and heard and loved unconditionally. Again, be the person you wish you were dating, you were in partnership with, you were in marriage with. Be the person you wish you were in relationship with. It starts with you. Does that make sense? Yes. Those are your needs: to be loved unconditionally for who you are, to feel seen, heard, understood. And those are valid. That's what deserves to be communicated. And you are totally invited, and like it makes perfect sense for you to express those needs and ask for it in a way that you want to receive it. Okay? Because this is actually the best way on how to level up that relationship really into a more mature state. Getting beyond the day-to-day list of like fights over silly stuff. Going to the roots of it. What is it that really matters in this relationship? Because once you start feeling that unconditional love for each other, maybe more than you ever did before, with the understanding and compassion, because you know you're not perfect. So then once you stop judging yourself and give yourself the break, you will be free to stop judging other people for not being perfect. As long as there's a mutual opening for letting that unconditional love with no expectations flow, then this is the best basis, the best foundation for then talking about, well, specifically, what is it that I need? Okay. And how is it that we can satisfy each other's needs, if we then talk about specifics? How is it that we can both find a way that will work for both of us? Okay. So that you don't feel pushed to do something you don't like. Because once the other person understands and is connected to you really, and you feel that love, unconditional love for each other, they will never force you to do something that you don't want to do. And you will never force them. Then the discussion is, rather than forcing anybody, is, well, if this doesn't work, then what about other options? And yeah, I'm talking classic scenario really. For moms who are touched out after years of breastfeeding and having one kid popping them up one after the other, they have nothing to do often with like physical intimacy. And this is the one thing that many men often lack and miss. Because beyond even their hormones and their physical state, it's also about them not having the proof that they're still important for you in your life. Because before kids, they were the number one. They were the center of your attention. They were the center of receiving all the people pleaser stuff, right? All the people pleaser attention. They were the one who was getting it. Now that there are kids, you're pouring it onto your kids. So they feel sidetracked. They feel like they're not important anymore, that you don't love them anymore. You don't show them. And then on top, there's no sex. So it's like, no, marriage is over. Very often it's not even about the sex. It's not the intimacy. It really goes deeper to the basis of the relationship, of making each other feel loved and seen and heard and important enough mutually. Yeah. And the best way how to do that and how to have the two-way open street of love is, rather than complaining that I'm here, I'm doing it, and he's not, like he's the one who needs to hear this podcast episode, is to realize that it starts with you, really. Not your fault. We just explained it. It's the people pleaser. It might be the hyperachiever. It might be the victim trauma, everything from your childhood. Not your fault. But it's time to start digging underneath. It's time to start giving and really checking with yourself. Do I want to give unconditionally, or is it just my people pleaser who want to get back Am I giving because I want to get? Because then don't do it. You're not on a horse trade. This is not a marketplace. You're not trading or switching this for that. No. Start doing the practice of giving when you're ready to give and you're okay even if nothing comes back. Start tuning into what really unconditional love means to you. How is it that it feels in your body when you're giving without expecting to receive anything? You're giving just because there's so much love pouring out of you. That's the practice. Not easy. I know it's easier said than done. Unless you actually start considering it, start doing this work. If it's the first time you hear about it and you've never tried doing that, deciding, making the decision, do I take the action? Or is it really my people pleaser and I should stop doing it? Until you do it, you will have no idea how it feels, how the unconditional love feels. Because most likely, I will dare to assume you were raised as a kid who never experienced unconditional love. There were always lists of conditions your parents had that you had to fulfill before they gave you more attention, right? So it's completely normal that you're not able, it's too abstract. It's like, I cannot still grab it, I cannot feel it. It's completely normal. You need to start practicing it. Should you choose to accept my invitation, who am I to tell you what you should be doing or focusing on? This is just an invitation for anybody who wants to get curious and who wants to get deeper. There's no coincidence that there are so many relationships breaking apart. This is one of the reasons why. This is one of the deepest reasons why. Your relationship doesn't have to be the next one. I just presented you with some options, some steps you could start taking on your own, even without the other person changing, if you love them enough, if that's your choice. It's also perfectly acceptable to walk away if you feel like it's not worth giving it a try and it has come too far and you want out. I'm not going to give you any advice. This is your life. You need to make your decision, but start owning it. You're not a victim here. You have a lot of power. You can change a lot. And wouldn't it be wonderful if after generations and generations of people-pleasing women who are victims and hyperachievers and just doing everything for everybody to feel at least loved, being worthy of love and appreciation, if you could start breaking that trauma so that your kids don't have to live the same? Wouldn't that be mind-blowing? That's what I'm here for. And if you've got to the end of this long podcast episode with me, that tells me that you might be ready for it. So let me appreciate you for having the courage and for listening to your intuition, even though it feels, it would be so much easier just to keep complaining and pointing fingers. I know. But it's time to stop being the kids. That's part of growing up. And I see you. I know you're ready for it. And I appreciate you. You're not alone. And you're doing great. Let me know what you got out of this podcast episode. I cannot wait to hear and continue our conversation. Send me your specific questions, scenarios. What are these like boundaries, unconditional love, and how about this and how about that? Send me your questions. I may turn it into the next podcast episode. Who knows? Take very good care. And keep working on that unconditional love. This is really, once you get in touch with that, how it really feels, how you give yourself the permission not to please others, that it's actually a choice, conscious choice you can make. Do I want to do that for others? Really? Making that as a choice and going with it and saying yes. Like, that's what I wish that you can start tapping into. Because there's nothing better than that. Realizing you don't need to use relationships with others to fill your void, to feel good enough. There's nothing more grounding, centered, and just like knowing. There's no more second guessing. There's no more wondering, questioning, judging. just all of this goes away. You're so deeply anchored into understanding who you are, what you're here to do. And you know that you have so much love that if giving some of it to the people around you is not going to take away from the love you have inside anyways, there's nothing better than that. And it is possible for you too. It starts right here and you're ready for it. That's why you've been with me all the way till the end. So go for it and let me know. Sending you lots of unconditional love. See you next time. Why can't you stop yelling at your kids? And no, it's not the stress, lack of sleep, kids not listening, fighting, hitting, no support, time pressure, ADHD, hormones. No, moms around the world are doing it regardless. How? Join us for the upcoming Mommy Tantrum training and find out too.